On Saturday, May 2nd, 2015, I took a high-speed train to Paris with just one purpose: getting my first Apple Watch. See, just a month before, Apple started taking pre-orders for the Apple Watch. But there was one thing about them: you couldn't buy them in the Apple Store. So there was just a select number of stores that actually would sell them on day one, and for me, the closest store was in Paris. So, as a self-proclaimed Apple fanboy, I obviously had to take the high-speed train to Paris and start my Apple mission. Since I bought the Apple Watch Series 0, which is the Apple Watch that was sold that day cold, and it's also, except for the Apple Watch that I'm wearing currently, which is the Series 6, the Apple Watch Series 0 is also the one that I still own. And it's even still working, surprisingly enough. So, after almost 7 years of wearing an Apple Watch on a daily basis, I think I'm in a pretty good position to say if an Apple Watch is worth it or not. I didn't have every single version of the Apple Watch. I skipped a version here and there because, for me at least, it's not worth it to upgrade every single time, as for example I do with my iPhone. That's also why I'm still wearing the Series 6, while we, of course, in the meantime have a Series 7 as well, with a bigger screen and maybe some other little changes, but it was definitely not worth it to me. The Series 6 for me was worth the upgrade just because of the always-on display, which is really nice, since when the always-on display wasn't there, sometimes it could be really awkward to just have a glimpse at a time. Say, if you were in a meeting, I couldn't just look down at my Apple Watch. I really had to ostentatiously look at my Apple Watch to see what time it was, and then people would ask like, "Oh, do you need to go?" No, I didn't. I was just checking the time actually, but sorry for that. So let's talk about a couple of different points about the Apple Watch. First of all, let's start with the aesthetics. I really like how the Apple Watch looks. If you can see it like on my wrist here. This is the 44mm version. I don't have the widest wrists, and I think it still looks fine on my wrist. I really like the size of the display, I really like the size of the watch, and usually I go with the stainless steel version because I think it looks a little bit more classy. I also like the added weight, and one of the advantages that I think a lot of people forget is that the stainless steel version actually has the sapphire glass. So if we for a second go back to the Series 0, which is this one. So this watch is effectively 7 years old. I've worn it for quite some time, and there isn't a single scratch on this display. Whereas I've seen Apple Watch Sports Editions that are only a couple months old, like only a year old, that do have scratches on the display. So I think like that alone makes it really worth it. Another thing that I really love about the Apple Watch is how easy it is to swap out the straps. Let's go back to the Series 0 because like the mechanism hasn't changed in all these years. Another thing I really love, because most of these bands aren't the cheapest, so it's always nice if you can use them for multiple years, as I am doing right now. As you can see, they have like a little button on the back side. You just press it in and you swap out the wristbands. It's something that I do at least once a day. For example, since the Series 6, I've also started using it while I am sleeping. So at night, I always want to exchange the wristbands to go to the sports bands, because you obviously don't want to be sleeping with a leather wristband. That wouldn't be that great. Next up, let's talk about the features. I don't use all the features on the Apple Watch, but I think like in these 7 years I figured out what I like and what I don't like as much. And I think the first and foremost, which I love about the Apple Watch, is the complications. So the complications are all the little elements on the screen where you can have like little pieces of information that are always available for you. So if I look at my watch right now, a couple of things I have available is I have for the stock market the S&P 500 on there. Then also I have the weather on there together with the sunset. The app that I use for this is Carrot. My calendar is shown by Fantastical, so that I always can see which is my next meeting or until what time my current meeting will run. Of course, I have the day and the date, the chance of precipitation in the coming hour, also the temperature with the minimum and the maximum range, and of course my Apple Fitness circles, something we will talk about later. And then at the bottom I usually have like 2 different time zones that are like relevant for me, and the ones on display here right now are San Francisco and New York City, so I always at a glance can see what time it is there. And then the fun part is also that you can easily set up multiple watch faces and you can just change them by swiping over your screen. So for example, I have a more minimalist watch face for in the evening or when I'm having like more leisure time. It doesn't show my calendar, but it does still show me the date, the weather, the chance of precipitation, and my fitness rings. Then the other watch face is the one that I talked about before with my calendar events, etc. Then I also have one specifically for traveling. So this is one where I also have included the big Apple Watch complication from Ab in the Air. And this makes it really easy for me when I'm in the airport and I quickly need to see like how much time I have to get to my gate, for example. I can just see it at a glance on my watch. And it's a feature that I absolutely love. I also made a video specifically about the apps that I'm using when I'm flying, and I'll link that video up here or here, always forget where it is, but it will be up there. Those are like the faces I've assembled so far. Usually during the summer I have like another watch face as well, specifically for when I go sailing. So this one will show me like the wind direction, the wind speeds, all the relevant stuff that I need to know when I'm out on the sea. Next up, one of the features that I use quite often is the raise to talk Siri function. So this basically means that you can just raise your wrist and start talking to Siri. So right now Siri is listening to me, I need to cancel her. You can just start talking, you don't have to say the Hey Siri command, which makes it quite easy. Hopefully Siri's not listening right now. Actually, I noticed that it's a feature that not a lot of people know. Even people who already own an Apple Watch are sometimes surprised that I'm just starting to talk to Siri without actually mentioning her. So this is a really nice feature, makes things really easy. One great example, I have my entire apartment set up with HomeKit, and if I want to set a certain scene or if I want to change like a certain light, I can just raise my wrist, talk to Siri. Another example, when I'm cooking, need to set a timer, just say set a timer for 10 minutes and we're ready to go. As for the features that I use a little bit less, the apps is definitely one of them. So you can use apps on an Apple Watch. They are specifically made for the Apple Watch. I do have a couple of apps that I use on my iPhone that do have an Apple Watch version, but I almost use none of them. The reason is quite simple. Like in the beginning, they were basically unusable. The Apple Watch was too slow, the apps didn't really work, and I don't think I ever got in the habit of using these apps. And still, every time that I try to use them now, the experience is just not fast enough to not take my phone out. The Apple Watch apps might be interesting when you really can't reach your phone or you need to do something quickly on your wrist, but in general, I just don't use them. I don't see me using them anytime soon, actually. And then, last but not least, as far as the features go, the navigation on the Apple Watch has also been pretty good so far, and it's really getting better every single time that I'm using it. So let me quickly explain. So you can just set the destination on your iPhone, you lock your iPhone, put it away, and you will automatically have the Maps app active on your Apple Watch. When you're walking in a city, you can have maps open on your Apple Watch with the navigation, and the watch will just tap your wrist to tell you if you need to go straight, if you need to take a right, or if you need to take a left. It's really easy. It takes like 5 minutes to get used to, and basically you can just walk around in the city without looking at your navigation, and you just know where you need to go. It's really easy, it's really convenient. It's one of those not hidden features, but it's like one of those features that's like maybe a little bit undervalued. I really love it. I know I said last but not least, but there's one that I forgot, and that's Apple Pay. This one is also a big one because Apple Pay makes my life really easy. If I go to the grocery store and I need to pay, I just tap my Apple Watch 2 times, my card comes up, I put it against the terminal, and it's paid. It's that easy. Also, if you're living in one of the bigger cities where the public transportation system is compatible with Apple Pay and it supports express transit, this makes it even more easy because you don't even have to tap your wrist, and if your Apple Watch runs out of battery, the chances are that you can still get on your public transportation. Basically, you're in New York City, you want to get into the subway, you just tap your wrist against the terminal in the compatible stations, and last time I've been in New York, I think almost all the stations are compatible these days, at at least in Manhattan they are, and you can just go. It's like really easy, really convenient. It's also like one of those undervalued features, I feel. Next, let's talk about fitness for a bit. The Apple Watch is a pretty good fitness tracker. I still remember when I first got my Apple Watch Series 0, I did a comparison with my Polar chest strap heart rate monitor, which I used for running before I had my Apple Watch, because I couldn't believe that a watch that would just measure my heart rate on my wrist could be as accurate as the one strapped to my chest. But it was. It was really accurate. Since then, I haven't really made the comparison anymore with the newer versions, but I can imagine it only got better. So I think it's not really something that's up for debate if you still need a separate heart rate monitor when you are using the Apple Watch, or maybe it depends on the person, I don't know. I'm obviously not a doctor, but the Apple Watch for me, it works perfectly fine. Also, when I'm on a streak, closing my rings in the Apple Fitness app. So you have 3 rings. One is you need to stand for at least 1 minute each hour for 12 hours in a day. The second one is you need 30 minutes of exercise. And the third one is your move goal, which basically sets a target active calories, and you need to close that ring as well. That one is custom for everyone. And when I'm on a streak closing these rings, it really motivates me to keep active every single day. But it's only when I'm on that streak, because like right now I'm not really on a streak and I couldn't care less, but sometimes it really works for me. I think it's definitely good to have the data regarding your fitness. Also, the GPS tracking on the Apple Watch works pretty well as well. I always use the built-in Apple Fitness app to track my runs outside, and then afterwards I will upload these runs to the Strava app, which is a seamless integration, makes it as easy as importing it in one tap. It will give you even a notification as soon as you're done with your run in the Apple Fitness app, and you will have all your data in Strava, including the GPS data, heart rate data, everything is there. And then specifically for when I'm golfing, I'm using an app called Golf Shot, and this automatically tracks your golf swings. So it makes it really easy for you to track your entire golf round. It will also add GPS data as well. So after my golf round is finished, I can basically see every different stroke that I did in that entire round. And it will show me like 3D simulations for it, and I can get a lot of details out of it. I can see if my shot went straight, if it went left, right, everything is there. Next, let's talk about the health features. Since day one, the Apple Watch supported the heart rate monitor. And this means that I have like almost 7 years of data for my heart rate. And sometimes it can be quite interesting to just dive in there and see like any trends you can spot. For example, if there's like a more high stress period, I can definitely see that my resting heart rate will be trending upwards a little bit. And I think it's really interesting data, and who knows what we can get out of this data in the future even. Also, since the Series 6 Apple Watch, so the one that I'm wearing right now, there's another metric that will also be measured at different points during the day, and that's the blood oxygen. And especially in these times with COVID going around, it is a really interesting metric to know, because your oxygen levels are apparently impacted by it. So it can be a good indicator to see your doctor, for example. And also Apple has plenty of stories where an Apple Watch actually saved lives, where it helped people. And I think an Apple Watch is a great device to monitor your health. And it definitely won't replace a doctor, obviously. So always be careful about that. Always see your doctor. But I think like all the data that is captured there, it's really valuable, and we will see a lot more great things that we can do with this. Now, will I continue to wear the Apple Watch every single day? It's a question that's been on my mind for quite a while now, especially because I'm also a little bit into mechanical watches. I haven't worn one in the longest time, but it's something that's still on my mind, something that I still look at on a regular basis. Probably at some point I will try to wear a mechanical watch again as well, to see what the difference is, what impact it has on my daily life, if I will really miss all those notifications, all the complications on my watch face, which I think I will miss the most. I've also been thinking about like maybe wearing the two of them. Like I do see some people doing it. I think it's a little bit weird, but it's something that's been on my mind, and I Definitely, if I ever do the experiment of going back to a mechanical watch, I will probably create a video about it as well to let you know like how that experiment went. Also, things like my next calendar event, I find it really convenient to just see that at a glance on my watch. This concludes the Apple Watch video. If you like this video, I also recently did a video about the new 14-inch MacBook Pro. A little bit of an Apple fanboy if you hadn't noticed by now. So I'll link that video up here. It's probably interesting watching that one as well. I'm basically talking about how I used it during my 1 month in New York City, during my travels, and like how the 14-inch size is holding up. Also some things about the battery life, the performance. It's a really interesting video. People seem to like it. Go give it a watch and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!